I paid $100 for the town of Graybar, sight unseen. Sounded like a steel and old Silver Rush outpost, long abandoned, deep in the hills east of Dry Creek. No power, no water, not even a roof worth salvaging. But it was mine. Every splintered saloon door, every leaning stable, every square foot of dirt and dust. That deed felt heavy in my pocket, like proof I finally owned something in this world. The ride-in was quiet. Too quiet, Graybar looked like. It showed busted windows, rusted signs, weeds punching through old boards. But then I saw it. Smoke. Thin, gray strands curling up from the chimney of the general store. And not the accidental kind either. This was a steady burn. Intentional. Like someone was inside keeping warm. I dismounted, boots crunching the dry dirt as I tied off my horse, and crossed the street. A breeze stirred an empty rocking chair. On the porch. Then I saw it, a patch of earth near the store, neatly turned over and fenced. Tomatoes. Maybe beans, too. Someone was living here. That's when the door creaked open. An older woman stepped out. Shoulders squared like a ranch boss. Gray braid down her back. Sharps .50 in her hands. And not shaking either. You ain't supposed to be here, she said. I raised both hands slow. Could say the same, ma'am. Her eyes narrowed at the papers I pulled from my pocket. I bought the town, I said. Deed signed, sealed, and stamped. She didn't even glance at it. Then you. Best get a refund. That gun didn't waver. She looked me up and down, like a man in clean boots and fresh leather didn't belong. I guess I didn't, not really. I nodded toward the garden. Those tomatoes yours? She didn't answer. I'm not here to throw anyone out, I added. Just didn't expect ... company. Something behind her made a soft sound, a cough. Wet, raspy. That's when her stance changed. Just a flicker, but enough. The gun dropped a few inches. Her jaw clenched. She looked tired. Not just worn out, but hollowed from the inside. I've got a granddaughter, she said. Zara, she's sick. Fever started last week. I lowered my hands. I'm Boon Carter. She looked me over again. Dorothy Whitmore. A moment passed between us. Not warm, not yet, but no longer ice. You want to come in, she said finally. You leave that deed outside. I nodded, stuck it between two porch slats, and followed her in. The air inside the store was thick, part dust, part sickness. Shelves once stocked with flour and soap were now filled with jars, bandages, rags. A cot was tucked behind the counter, and on it lay a girl no older than 10, her skin pale and lips dry. She opened her eyes for half a second, then slipped back into fevered sleep. She won't eat, Dorothy said quietly, smoothing Zara's hair. I boiled creek water best I could. She needs real medicine, not hope and grit. I didn't know what to say. I was no doctor. Just a man with a deed and a vague dream of restoring a ghost town. This wasn't part of the plan. Why here? I asked. Why stay in a place like this? And Dorothy looked at the ceiling like she could see through it. Everywhere else got stripped bare. Banked took the house. We ran out of places to run. I turned back toward the porch. My horse nickered outside, impatient. I could walk away, ride out, come back with the law if I wanted, but I DIDN single quotes T. Instead, I pulled a canteen from my saddlebag and handed it over. I'll fetch water, I said. Clean, boiled. You stay with her. And for the first time since I arrived, she nodded without suspicion. But just as I stepped outside, I heard hooves, multiple, coming fast from the ridge. I dropped low behind the porch rail. Dorothy appeared. In the doorway, rifle already in hand, again. If it's Crow, she said, we're in trouble. Crow? I asked. She didn't answer. But her eyes were locked on the rise ahead, where 3 riders crested the hill. Trouble had come too. Graybar. They rode in like they owned the dirt. 3 men. One tall and square-shouldered with a black hat pulled low and a badge that caught the sunlight like it wanted to be noticed. The other 2 were the kind you don't mistake. Hired hands. Not lawmen. Their rifles weren't slung polite-like. They were ready. Dorothy didn't flinch. She stepped down off the porch like she'd been preparing for this day since the day she was born. I stayed behind her, hands loose but ready. The lead man swung down from his horse and walked up slow. Dorothy Whitmore, he said, voice smooth as creek water. You got 30 seconds to explain why you're trespassing." She planted her feet. "I ain't trespassing, Sheriff. I've been here 3 months. You knew that." He smiled without humor. "And you knew that your debts don't disappear just because you change addresses." Dorothy stiffened. The house was taken. The livestock sold. "We ain't got a dime left. This town was empty. I didn't steal nothing." "That so?" He looked past her to me. "And who's this?" "Another squatter?" I stepped forward. "I'm the legal owner. Bought the town fair and square. Name's Boon Carter." He didn't even blink. "Then you're in violation of territorial law, Mr. Carter. Harboring a debtor fugitive. That's aiding and abetting." Dorothy's rifle clicked, a clear warning. "Don't." He said, "I'm here legal. You owe $800, Dorothy. Signed papers say you got no right to nothing. Not this land. Not the roof over your head. Not even that sick little girl inside." My blood turned cold. "What did you say?" I asked. He turned to me, eyes smug. "Zara. Her name's on the notice, too. She's property until the debt is satisfied." Dorothy lost it. She raised the rifle, finger on the trigger, but I stepped in, one hand out. "You're not taking her," I said. "She's a child. Debt's debt," he replied. "That's the law, now." "No," I snapped. "That's your version of the law." He took a step closer, hand brushing the handle of his revolver. "You want to get involved, Mr. Carter? Then you best understand what that means. We've got orders, and judges that back them." Dorothy's breath was ragged. I could feel the tremble in her restraint. "Let's be real clear," I said, voice steady. "You want to take that little girl, you're gonna have to go through me, and we'll see what the papers say when this hits Dry Creek in the press. Here's you tried to confiscate a child. That landed." One of his men shifted uneasily. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "You think I won't come back with more?" he said. "I think," I said. "You just blinked. And I think you're bluffing." We stared each other down. A long second passed. Then two. Finally he stepped back, mounted up without a word. The others followed. Dust kicked up behind them. As they rode out slow, not defeated, but calculating, Dorothy exhaled, and her knees almost buckled. I caught her elbow and helped her steady Dot inside. Zara coughed again. Harsh. Weak Dorothy wiped her face with her sleeve. "That bastard's coming back." "I figured," I said. "I can't leave," she whispered. "She won't survive the ride." I nodded, jaw tight. "Then we dig in." I started hauling boards from the old saloon across the street, reinforcing windows and door frames. Dorothy boiled water, mixed what herbs she had left, laid cold claws on Zara's forehead. That night we lit no lamps. The moon hung sharp over. Graybar, silent, waiting. I couldn't sleep. Too much rage burning behind my eyes. That man had looked at a sick child and seen collateral. Dorothy sat beside Zara all night. She hummed old songs, soft and cracked. The kind of songs that came from somewhere deeper than words. By dawn, Zara's fever was worse. She whimpered in her sleep. Dorothy touched my arm. "If he comes back," she said, "you don't fight for me. Just take her. Run." I looked at that little girl, sweating and shivering in her cot, and something clicked in me I hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. "You're not alone anymore," I said. She didn't answer, but her hand stayed on mine a long time. We didn't know it then, but we had less than a day before Sheriff Crow returned. And next time he wouldn't be bluffing. We didn't get 24 hours. By late afternoon, we saw dust rising on the southern road. A single rider at first, then two more behind. I didn't need a telescope to know it was Crow, that damn black hat like a vulture circling. Dorothy loaded her rifle in silence. I checked the shotgun I'd pulled from the store's back room. Its barrel was short, rough, probably hadn't fired in a year, but it to do. Zara lay quiet, too quiet. Her breathing had turned shallow, with little squeaks between each gasp. We rewrapped her in blankets. She never opened her eyes. When the hooves stopped, I stepped outside. Sheriff Crow sat tall in the saddle, reins loose in one hand, the other resting too close to his revolver. His two deputies flanked him, one pale and twitchy, the other built like a barrel. "You've had time to think," Crow said. "I have," I replied. "And I've decided the law don't work the way you think it does." Crow smiled. "I'm here to collect, Mr. Carter. Ain't nothing personal." He reached into his coat and pulled out a paper, not the deed, not a warrant, just a grubby typed contract. Whitmore owes $800 plus interest, fees, and penalties. Per this document, she forfeited all property rights and custody of dependents. Signed under duress, I said. This won't hold in court, he shrugged. Court's 3 weeks away in Carson City. Zara might not last the wagon ride. I didn't move. So what's your plan? Haul her out in a sec. He looked me over. You're real protective of that girl for someone who met her yesterday. I stepped off the porch, slowly. She's a child, I said. You want to drag her through the dirt for the sake of a bank balance? That makes you less than a man. The twitchy deputy drew first. I didn't flinch. Crow raised his hand. Hold it, he said. Let's be civilized. Dorothy emerged behind me, rifle steady. Her voice was like gravel. You want us? Prove your claim? Bring a judge. Bring the territorial marshal. Crow's smile faded. He looked between us. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. You already made it big, I said. Now finish it. For a long second he just stared. Then he turned his horse. I'll be back, he said, with a warrant. And a real lawman. Dorothy muttered something under her breath. I didn't catch it. Crow leaned in close before he left. That girl dies before I get back? I'll have you both arrested for neglect. I didn't respond. He didn't deserve words. They rode out and silence fell over Graybar again. I thought we'd have a day, maybe 2. But an hour later, hooves thundered from the west. Only this time it wasn't the sheriff. It was a wagon, escorted by 5 riders. One of them was Ruth Henley, red hair, sharp jaw, and a bandolier across her chest. She didn't stop to say hello. Inside, she barked. We're staying the night. Dorothy didn't ask questions. Ruth had a reputation. She ran the Widow Ranch east of the draw, and everyone knew she had no love for banks. Inside the store, Ruth dropped a leather folder on the counter. Crow's been running this racket for a year. 15 families evicted, all from land close to the new railroad survey. I opened the folder. Names, receipts, maps, signatures, all forged. Weird. You get this? I asked. Samuel Chun, she said. He forged most of the papers for Crow. He's ready to talk. Marshal's protection. Dorothy exhaled, almost a sob. You think it'll stop him? It might, Ruth said, but not if we let them get ahead of us. Zara coughed again, worse now. Her small frame convulsed. Dorothy ran to her side. She's burning up, she whispered. I looked at Ruth. Can we get her to town? Not without killing her, she said. She won't survive a wagon ride. I looked out the window, mind racing. The sheriff would return with fire and paperwork. But if we made this public, if we brought it to light before he arrived, we might stand a chance. We need witnesses, I said. And someone higher up than Crow. We've already sent word, Ruth said. An investigator's coming. Tomorrow. That was good. Maybe enough, if we could hold on. That night I didn't sleep. Dorothy didn't either. And outside, Graybar no longer felt empty. It felt like a powder keg. By dawn, there were more people in Graybar than it had seen in 50 years. 2 wagons full of displaced settlers rolled in with Ruth's riders. Men, women, even a toddler with a patched eye. Folks who'd lost farms, homes, kin. One man, Charlie Brent, brought what was left of his deed, a corner chewed by rats, but still bearing his father's signature and a watermark. Crow had taken his land 6 months ago. Another woman, Missy Clements, told us how her husband shot himself after their orchard was claimed by clerical error. I listened to every story, each one tighter in the chest than the last. And all the same thread. Sheriff Crow, backed by First Union Bank, pushing people off land that suddenly became valuable right after a new rail line map leaked. Dorothy held Zara against her chest as we gathered around the fire pit. The girl's skin was like wax. Her breathing rattled. Ruth crouched beside them, gently checking her pulse. She needs quinine, Ruth said. Maybe laudanum to settle the lungs. But unless someone finds a miracle. Dorothy closed her eyes and didn't speak. That's when Samuel Chun arrived. He looked nothing like I expected. Short, neat, clean-shaven, buttoned shirt like a banker. Ruth brought him in on horseback, wrapped in a gray duster. He seemed nervous, but determined. "I forged the documents," he said. "But Crow told me they were backdated settlements, that the families had agreed." I looked him dead in the eye. "You knew. You just didn't ask." He swallowed. "I did later, too late." He handed Ruth a leather journal. Every false deed, every forged signature, names, locations, timelines, enough to blow the roof off First Union. They wanted the land along the ridge, Chun said, for mining or rail access. I don't know which, but Crow got a cut on every foreclosure. "How do we know you're not still playing both sides?" I asked. He reached into his coat and pulled out a torn piece of paper, a marshal's letter. "I turned myself in 2 days ago. The marshal was coming with me this morning to arrest Crow, but he never showed." A silence fell. Ruth stood slowly. "You said was." Chun nodded. "We found his horse, saddle cut, blood on the ground. I think Crow had him killed." Dorothy's voice cracked. "So now we've got a child dying, a murdered marshal, and half the territory sleeping under false titles?" "No," I said. "We've got something better." They looked at me. "We've got proof. We've got witnesses. And if Crow thinks he can roll in here and clean up the mess, let's make damn sure he finds a crowd waiting." That's when I sent word to Dry Creek's newspaper. Ruth dispatched 2 riders to fetch the editor and his photographer. If Crow wanted to play judge and executioner, he could do it in front of a printing press. By noon, fences were reinforced. Weapons were distributed. Samuel Chung was hidden in the cellar beneath the old saloon. Someone spotted riders on the ridge around dusk. Not Crow, but likely his men, scouting. We stayed up all night. Ruth posted shifts. Dorothy sat with Zara, whispering lullabies so quietly I could barely hear them, but I knew every word was. Soaked with fear. At one point I found myself staring out the store window. A town I thought I'd bought for $100 had turned into something much bigger. I didn't buy ruins. I bought a fight, a second chance, and in the dim candlelight, I realized I wasn't just defending Dorothy or Zara anymore. I was defending every soul who'd been stepped on and cast aside by men with clean boots and dirty hands. Crow had one more move left, but so did we. And this time we had the truth on our side. The wind shifted around sunrise. Cold, sharp, and mean, the kind that creeps under your coat and wraps fingers around your spine. We'd barely slept. Ruth was pacing like a caged wolf, and Chun kept glancing up from the cellar steps like someone expecting to be dragged out at any moment. I checked on Zara. She was worse. Her skin had gone from waxy to gray blue. Her eyes fluttered open for seconds at a time, then rolled back. Her breathing came in little squeaks, each one weaker than the last. Dorothy never left her side. She sat cradling the girl in her lap, whispering stories into her ear. About honey, trees and riverboats, about the sound of chickens waking up on spring mornings. She held her like faith was stronger than sickness. "She's slipping," Ruth said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I felt useless, helpless. And then we heard it. Hooves, not just a few. A dozen at least. We scrambled to the barricades, rifles raised. But when the riders came into view, I felt my stomach twist. Sheriff Crow was alone. He rode up slow, hands visible, no gun drawn. His black hat was gone, and his coat hung crooked, like it had been put on in a hurry. "Where's your army?" I called out. He didn't answer right away. His face was pale, eyes glassy. "I need to talk," he said. Ruth raised her rifle. "You got 5 seconds. It's about the marshal." Dorothy appeared behind me. "What about him?" Crow dismounted like a man who'd been shot in the soul. "He's dead," he said. "But not by me." "Liar," Ruth spat. Chun said. "Chun's half right," Crow said. "The marshal came to arrest me. I planned to run. But before I could, someone else got to him." We exchanged glances. "Who?" I asked. Crow hesitated, then said, "The bank? Or their men?" I heard the shot, found the marshal bleeding in the brush. Chun thought he was dead. He wasn't. I got him to shelter. He's alive. Barely. Nobody moved. "And why are you here?" Dorothy asked. "Because I was wrong," Crow said, voice low. "Because this whole thing started as a favor. I took 1 payoff. Then 2. Then they had me. I thought I was helping the town, keeping it alive. You stole homes," I snapped. "You took children." He nodded, tears in his eyes. I did, and I can't undo it, but I can end it. Ruth looked ready to shoot him anyway. I've got letters, he said quickly. Bank correspondences, names, ledgers. It's all stashed up at Pine Hollow, where the marshal's recovering. What do you want from us? I asked. I want to testify, he said. I want to see that bank burn. Dorothy didn't speak. Her eyes were on Zara, who let out a soft, strangled cough. Crow noticed. There's a healer, he said. Out past Devil's Bluff, tribal woman. Been there 40 years. She saved my grandson once, but the trail's rough. You'd never. Make it with a wagon. Dorothy stood. Then show me the way. I will, he said. But we'll need to leave now. She might not have much time. Ruth grabbed my arm. You can't trust him. I'm not, I said. But we don't have a choice. Then it hit. Gunfire. Loud. Close dot, we ran out the back as settlers shouted and returned fire. A small army of riders had crept up from the ridge while we were talking. Hired guns, maybe bank men, maybe worse. They're trying to surround us, someone yelled. I looked at Crow. He didn't run. He dropped to one knee and drew his revolver, facing the fight like a man with nothing left to lose. We'll hold them, Ruth said, cocking her rifle. Go, take her. Dorothy wrapped Zara in blankets, fastened her to a travois Ruth's boys had rigged, and turned to me. I can't do this alone, she said. You're not, I said. Crow led the way down a narrow trail behind the old mill. I pulled the reins on a mule dragging Zara's travois. Dorothy kept one hand on the girl's chest, feeling for breath. Behind us, the gunfire faded. Ahead of us, the trail narrowed to shadow and stone, and time was running out. The trail wound like a scar between black rocks and pine. Crow led at a pace that told me two things. He'd been this way before, and he wasn't pretending anymore. Dorothy rode just behind him, cradling Zara, whose breath now came in shallow, spaced gasps. I followed, dragging the travois through switchbacks and dust, trying not to think about the girl's weight lightening with each hour. We were maybe an hour out when the wind shifted again. Gunfire. Faint. Far off. But steady. Dorothy looked back. They're still fighting. I nodded. Ruth won't back down. Crow didn't say anything. His face was locked forward, jaw clenched tight, like every hoofbeat was a nail in his coffin. Then we saw them. Riders. Not a gang, not Crow's men, but uniformed, official, flags tucked to their saddles and badges glinting. At least 15 of them, flanked by 2 wagons and a buckboard heavy with crates. At their head was a tall man in a gray duster and a gold-banded hat. Territorial investigator. Elisha Hart. I knew his name from newsprint, the kind of lawman who'd shut down entire banks for skimming off miners and seizing black farms under tax laws. A man who didn't bend. They saw us and halted. One rider dismounted and ran ahead, shouting Hart's name. In seconds, they surrounded us. Not weapons drawn, but alert. Hart stepped down, looked at Crow, then at Dorothy. His eyes landed on Zara. I got your letter, he said. And the evidence, the forgeries, Chun's confession, Crow's ledger. Dorothy was shaking. Then you know. Hart nodded once. I do. Crow dismounted slowly. The marshal? Hart. Didn't blink. Alive, recovering. He gave us everything. The silence broke like thunder. Dorothy sagged, nearly collapsed from relief. I caught her, easing her down gently as she cradled Zara closer. Hart turned to his men. We're heading back to Graybar. Arrest everyone flying a first union contract. Burn the records. Every fraudulent foreclosure is voided, effective immediately. And her? I asked, pointing to Zara. Hart knelt. His face softened. We have laudanum and quinine in the crates. But we also sent ahead to the tribal healer. She's coming down the trail now. We turned to see her, an older woman in a long blue shawl, flanked by 2 younger riders. Her hair was tied in silver braids, her eyes sharp and warm like firelight. No theatrics, no promises. Just calm. She's not gone yet, the healer said, kneeling beside Dorothy and unwrapping her satchel. But she's close, very close. They set up a space under a juniper tree, laid Zara flat, stripped her down to her shift, and began mixing herbs, powders, something bitter in a cup. She was still breathing, barely, but there was a flutter in her throat now. A fight. Crow stood apart, arms crossed. His eyes didn't move from the girl. He looked like a man who'd just been hit by every mistake he ever made, all at once. Then he stepped forward, pulled a leather-bound notebook from his coat, and handed it to Hart. Every name I ever took money from. Every order I followed. It's all in there. Hart flipped through it, his expression unreadable. "You'll face trial," he said. "I know," Crow replied. "But if that girl lives," Hart added, "your testimony might save more than your neck." Crow nodded once, then turned to me. "I know I can't undo what I've done, but if she pulls through, it'll be the only good thing I ever helped make happen." I didn't answer. I just looked at the little girl fighting for her life beneath the shade of a twisted tree. Zara coughed, sharp, sudden. Her chest bucked up, then again. And again. Dorothy gasped. The healer held a hand over the child's mouth, then her chest. "She's not done yet," the woman said. "Not if you give her time." We gave her time. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the hill. And for the first time in days, I let myself believe there was a chance. Not just for Zara. But for all of U.S. We waited. Every minute felt like a coin toss. Heads, she breathes. Tails, she doesn't. The healer never left Zara's side. She crushed bark, brewed steam, whispered in a tongue I didn't recognize, and placed small stones beneath the girl's arms. Said they held warmth. Said they tricked the body into believing the world was still worth staying in. Dorothy didn't sleep. Just sat beside her, whispering stories that had no endings, like she was afraid to finish one, and let Zara go. I kept watch with Ruth. She had returned to the ridge, battered but grinning. Her left arm was grazed by a bullet. 2 of Crow's old men had surrendered, the rest fled. The bank's hired muscle hadn't expected a crowd with cameras, rifles, and a war chest full of signed testimony. "Front page in Dry Creek," Ruth told me. "Your face might be on it." "Hope they catch my good side," I muttered. That night, Crow approached me by the fire. He looked tired. Not in the eyes, in the bones. "I got something to say," he said, hesitating. "Then say it." He looked over at Dorothy. "She don't owe me anything." "Hell, none of you do. But my grandson, he was her age when he got sick. Same coughing, same blue lips. We thought we'd lose him. That healer saved him." He paused. "I never told anyone, not even the bank. Was afraid they'd see it as weakness." "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because I saw her fight today," he said, voice cracking. "And I remembered what it felt like, holding someone you love and knowing you can't do a damn thing but pray." He looked down at his hands. "I was a coward," he said. "Let men in suits pull my strings 'cause they promised me safety. But they never gave a damn about this land, or the people on it. I said nothing. Just watched the fire flicker between us. Then Crow pulled a letter from his coat. "It's my confession. Signed, names, dates. I want it public. Let people know what happened here." He handed it to me. The envelope was sealed. "She dies," he said. "I still want this to matter." At dawn, the healer called for Dorothy and me. Zara's fever had broken. Her chest rose steadier now. Her eyes fluttered. And when Dorothy kissed her forehead, the girl mumbled something that made her mother drop to her knees. She asked for porridge. Dorothy whispered. I turned away. My eyes burned. The settlement broke out in cheers. Not loud ones, just breathy, exhausted joy. As if they were too afraid to celebrate full until she stood on her own. Hart's men stayed to secure the area. Arrests were underway. Investigators took statements, collected documents, and sealed the town ledgers into evidence crates. They'd have enough to bury First Union in court. Hart approached me before leaving. "You got plans for this place?" he asked. "Not yet," I said, "but it ain't for sale." He nodded. "Good. Town like this could use a second life." Later that day, I found Dorothy by the fence near the garden. The tomatoes had gone to seed. She was replanting. "You're staying," I said. "If you'll have us," she replied. I smiled. "You were here first." Zara sat nearby under a blanket, still pale, but smiling. One of the settlers had carved her a wooden doll. She clutched it like a talisman. Crow stood at the edge of the road, hat in hand, not asking to stay, just watching, waiting. Dorothy surprised me. She walked over to him, handed him a tin cup of broth. "Don't talk," she said. "Just drink." He did Dot, and in that moment, awkward, broken, quiet, I realized something rare had happened here. Forgiveness had cracked the door open. Not wide, but just enough. The bank's men were gone. The marshal was alive. The town had stood its ground. And that little girl, the one everyone had counted out, had made it through. Not because of papers or laws or banknotes, because people decided to stand. 2 weeks passed. Zara took her first steps again near the back of the old general store, stumbling through weeds in borrowed boots. Dorothy wept when she saw it, arms open, eyes wide, knees in the dirt. The girl grinned like she had no memory. A pained Dot. We all gathered that day. The settlers, the riders, Ruth, Chun, even Hart's men who'd stayed behind to make sure the last of the bank's influence was buried 6 feet under. What had once been a ghost town had turned into something else. A beginning Dorothy called it New Haven Dot. She painted the name across the storefront in red and gold. Kids helped rehang the sign. Men patched rooftops. Women planted beans and squash. Near the creek bed, we found a spring higher up in the hills, clean and cold. Someone rebuilt the bell tower and rang it at noon just because they could. I gave out parcels of land, fair and legal. 20 acres to the Brents, 15 to the Clemens. Ruth didn't take much, just a barn and a pasture. Said she liked to keep her boots moving. Chun, cleared by Hart's office, stayed on as town clerk. I didn't trust him at first, but the man spent every morning organizing records like he was praying through paper. Crow sat through his trial in silence. Never denied a thing. The judge spared his life, but not his time. 20 years with possibility for parole. Before they led him away, he asked to see Dorothy Dot. She stood with Zara at her side, holding her daughter's hand tight. "I ain't asking for anything," he said. "Just wanted to see her well." Zara looked up. "Mama said you helped me." Dorothy didn't speak. Crow nodded. "You keep listening to her. She's stronger than most men I've known." Then he looked at me. "Thank you," he said. I almost didn't respond, but something in his eyes, not seeking absolution, just peace, made me nod back. They took him in chains. He never looked back. That winter was hard. Snow came early. But the store had stock. The stables were warm. We had enough. Zara's laugh became the sound of the town. I took a corner plot. Just a few acres. Built a cabin. Simple, clean. Dorothy helped pick the lumber. Zara helped paint the door blue. On a quiet night, she asked me if I was her daddy now. "No," I told her gently. "But I'll be here, as long as you want me to be." She smiled. "Good, I want a pony." Dorothy laughed. From the porch, "You hear that, Boon? You're already in debt." Spring came. With it, a letter from the governor's office. They'd officially restored every title seized by the bank. The name First Union was now mud. A reporter returned to do a follow-up story. Called it the town that wouldn't die. I stood in the middle of Main Street that day, watching smoke curl from the chimney of a rebuilt schoolhouse. The sun was warm. The air smelled like turned earth and sawdust. I thought about that first day, riding into a place I thought I'd bought for $100. Empty, forgotten, Dot instead. I found a girl on the edge of dying. A woman with a rifle and a heart. Like granite, Dot, and a fire waiting to be lit. Graybar was gone. But New Haven? She was just getting started, and so was I.